Okay.
Better get on your bed, baby. You taught him.
She saved you? There we are. Okay. All right, you good now? Okay.
Okay, this is like the 5th time I've done this.
I think everybody is here because Gary's not able to. Right now. Everybody else is here. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We are going to call the meeting to order. Today is November 5th. We are here at the Novi Board of Education regular meeting. I would like to welcome everybody tonight. And if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can get a motion for the approval of the agenda? Yeah, it's not, or do we need a roll call? Because everybody's here, right?
Okay.
We'll do a roll call. Mr. Mena wants to do a roll call.
Okay, Trustee Cook.
Here.
Trustee Hood.
Here.
Trustee Mena here. Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Roney.
Here.
Trustee Ruskin.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
All righty. If we can get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Recommended by Mr. Cook and supported by Mrs. Roney. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Tonight, we're going to start off with 3 reports to the board, and we will start off with the National Merit Semifinalist recognition. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. And tonight I am pleased to present High School Principal Nicole Carter, and she will present to the board the Class of 2020 National Merit Semifinalists. Ms. Carter.
Good evening. It's another great day to be a Novi Wildcat. My name is Nicole Carter, and I have the distinct honor and privilege of serving as the principal of Novi High School. Thank you, Dr. Matthews, cabinet members, and the Board of Education for this special opportunity to recognize Novi High School's 2020 National Merit Scholarship semifinalist. Tonight, I introduce to you virtually our 39 National Merit semifinalists. These students are a shining example of what it means to be a product of the Novi Community School District. And we are all so very proud of the achievement of these students. So what exactly is the National Merit Scholarship? Approximately 1.5 million students in more than 21,000 high schools entered this program. Only 16,000 of these students qualify as semifinalists. And I'm so very proud to announce that Novi High School has 39 students who have qualified. These students represent less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors. These students exemplify the very best and brightest that Novi Community School District has to offer. These 39 students have been enrolled in 350 advanced placement courses, 106 international baccalaureate courses, 29 dual enrollment courses, which means that they're taking college-level courses during the school day at a local community college. 23 started as kindergartners within the Novi Community School District. 24 are in active clubs at the high school. There are, out of the 39, 5 are on athletic teams, and 14 out of the 39 volunteer at local organizations. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, our 39 National Merit semifinalists. Ashwin Balawaji, and it's not an error. There are actually 2 students at Novi High School who are seniors who have the exact same name. They actually have birthdays one day apart, and they live in the same neighborhood, like across the street from each other. I did my research. We also have Sian Chang, Lisa Dai, Ashwat Dharparan, Catherine Dong, Joseph Doherty, Elena Elkin, Anik Gardon, Pallavi Ghosh, Jacob Huang, Aditya Iyer, Sapravanav Janlavula, Waris Kang, Magana Lanka, Justin Levine, Eric Lee, Sunihidi Maraja Lakar, Zar Muhammad, Barad Mulay, Muhak Nazir, Varun Namagata, and Vasuda Namagata, which we have 2 sets of twins this year as well, who are National Merit semifinalists, which is truly uncanny. We've got Jenna Patel and Rohan Patel, Sanjit Panjili, Adini Q, Abhinav Reddy, Alexander Rosnowski, Sheen Tian, Rithika Twari, Sabarnaras Vinakastian, Aditya Vijanarajaja, Amakar Vadela, Alexander Wan, Irene Wang, Sarah Yi, Brandon Zhang, and Chris Zhang. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the 39 students are not in attendance this evening with their families. Usually we have the distinct honor of welcoming all of them to this venue to celebrate them. So as a result, after careful consideration and reflection, I tried to figure out what could we do to best honor these students. And so I worked in collaboration with our high school counselor, Megan Surgison, and our Novi Community School District Marketing and Public Relations Specialist, George Sibyl, to start a new tradition to honor our National Merit semifinalist. We created a webpage under the Academics tab on our Novi High School website. I would highly recommend and encourage each and every one of you to take a look at this site. So I'm going to double click on it now, because this will give you an opportunity to put a name with a face in regards to who these phenomenal students are, what they stand for, what they believe in, what they're involved in. And I really, really found a great deal of appreciation and gratitude from these students in regards to the comments that they made about their teachers. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can get to the pictures.
It's very cool.
Sorry about the technology here. So, when you take a look here, you'll be able to see a picture, a list of their school-related activities, their achievements, their favorite teacher, their favorite quote, advice that they have to future Novi High School students, and what they enjoyed most about Novi High School. So I would deem this page as a point of pride. My hope is that anyone who is looking at considering Novi Community School District, keeping in mind we are a destination district, this will be a great opportunity for them to get to know our Wildcats, what they stand for, and the remarkable achievements that they have made. So I would highly recommend that you take time to visit this page. It actually just went live today. We're super excited about it. And once again, congratulations to Novi's terrific 39 National Merit semifinalist. Thank you. I don't know that yet.
Wow, wonderful.
But they have some pretty awesome personalities, like in their pictures too. So I would highly recommend it. Thanks again for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Carter. We appreciate you, and we also appreciate all your creativity that you and your counselors and your staff always do to make sure our students are getting highlighted and honored even during these most difficult times. So appreciate you as always.
Oh, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Next
good.
up, we have the second reports to the board. It will be the capital projects update. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. In 2019, the Novi community approved a series of bond issues totaling $185 million, which will provide for security and technology, an addition to Novi Meadows, an advanced technology STEM robotic space, a multi-purpose facility, improvements to current facilities, athletic sites and parking lots, media center and special education space, remodeling, furniture, and buses. We are grateful for the support of our community. Tonight, Mr. Kevin Donnelly of Plant Moran Cressa, the district's owner's representative, will present an update and overview of the capital projects so far and our next steps. Mr. Donnelly. As we wait for the presentation, Mr. Donnelly, would you like to introduce the team that's here this evening as well?
Absolutely. Well, I'm fortunate enough to be able to give an update on behalf of the team, and I'm honored to be here tonight, so thank you. We do have in the audience tonight representatives from TMP and both McCarthy Smith, and they're here to assist if there's any questions that come up, but we're presenting on behalf of the team tonight. we go. Sheila? No.
Oh my goodness. There we go.
All right, nothing like technology.
We love it.
All right, sorry for the delay. And good evening again, everybody. Kevin Donnelly at Plant Moran Cressa. We're happy to be here tonight to give the board and the community an update on the 2019 bond program. And what we'd like to cover tonight is to give an overall bond update, give an update on this past summer's work. Also provide an update to the team related to the bond budget and schedule. And then in particular, give some detail and some overview and some nice pictures that we have prepared.
You know what? Excuse me. We really can't, I can't hear you.
Can't either.
Just move it up, Kevin, a little bit closer,
It's not
probably.
you, it's just the stage. I
Is that
mean,
okay?
if we Get some stage speakers set up, that would be great.
Okay.
And then we'd like to talk about the high school, middle school, Village Oaks, and Orchard Hills, some of the projects that we have planned for this upcoming year. And then to conclude, give an update as well on the exciting Meadows 5th and 6th grade addition and remodeling project. So before we begin, I think it's important to always take a look back in how we arrived at the bond and what some of the key principles are of the bond, which, as you'll see as we start talking about some of the projects moving forward, that a lot of these key elements are obviously points of the projects that we have coming up. But the 5 key pillars are listed there. Obviously, educational facilities, new learning opportunities, new technology, infrastructure and equipment, and then a big priority within the bond is safety and security. $185 million bond. Actually, the bond millage rate lowered, and it was a successful bond vote. So talking a little bit about the progress that we've done since the last update, which was back in May. We've been planning, actually we completed the summer's work, which were the secured entryways, Parkview, Deerfield, and Novi Woods. We were successful in working through the COVID this summer, and it didn't really impact our construction project progress, which was great. We were able to complete the staff parking lot, along with some district-wide site improvements, whether that be sidewalk replacements, catch basin repairs, and general infrastructure improvements throughout the district. Some of the athletic work was also completed this past summer. We replaced the diving boards at the high school, did some repairs and work to the track, and then recently we just replaced the scoreboard here at the middle school as well. And then throughout all the secured entryways this past summer, we obviously implemented technology that was required for those spaces. Design and programming update. I mentioned earlier that we have several key projects that are coming up to be bid this fall, that being Orchard Hills, Village Oaks, both the Phase 1 secured entryways and additions, the high school Phase 1, which predominantly consists of the secured entry, and the middle school Phase 1, which entails the secured entry as well as a music wing addition. And then, like we're going to be doing every summer coming up, we'll entertain opportunities for design prime work, whether that be athletics, roofing, playgrounds, or civil related. I can report to the team that we are planning to do some athletics work this next summer, which will consist of the tennis court or the middle school tennis courts, along with a roofing project and the playgrounds. Continuing with design and some of the other programming updates, the Meadows Civil Design and Building Design is completed through SD, which is schematic design. It was recently completed. The team continues behind the scenes to conduct design review meetings with staff and administration. We've gone through detailed mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and controls meetings with the various engineers as well as our commissioning agent. So those are actually very worthwhile meetings to flush out any of those problems ahead of time. And then, of course, we've been having stakeholder meetings as we prepare for next year's work and going through design, whether that be athletics, the city, security, transportation, and obviously maintenance. So now that we're kind of done talking about the design and programming, we're actually in this current phase right now, which is bidding and procurement for those particular projects. We do have a couple of projects on the street right now. That's Orchard Hills and Village Oaks. We're going to be talking a little bit here shortly about schedule and some of the projects that you're going to see come forward for approval. Those will be two of them. We are planning logistics, phasing, and coordination in preparation of next year's work. McCarthy and Smith and their team have been doing a great job with getting in front of administration and principals and proactively planning out the work for next year. And then as we conclude the design and before we obviously go to bid on all these projects, we've been going through detailed budgeting exercises to validate and verify that before we go to bid that the projects are on schedule or on budget. In addition to the bidding activities, we do have some things that have been going on behind the scenes in preparation for the work. We've been working with our commissioning agent to have them do design reviews as well, and that's Horizon Engineering. Last time we reported that we are getting ready to engage our security consultant. Since the last meeting, we've hired them, and they've been actively involved within the district. That company being Secured Education Consultants. They've been integrated within the current design plans that we have out on the street. We've been doing a lot of coordination. We've done building assessments, and they're now attached to the team and part of the process. We have advertisement for bids on the street right now for a couple of the projects, and that'll continue through the fall. And as of this week, we've been having contractor pre-bid meetings for the projects that we have out for bid, and we're happy to say that the two pre-bids that we had earlier in the week, we had very good turnout from the contractor community, and there seems to be a lot of interest in our projects. Some of the district-wide planning and activities that continue behind the scenes to support the projects that are in design and planning. We continue our due diligence activities, whether that be surveying work, geotechnical and/or environmental, to support the projects. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, we've also been conducting district-wide security assessments and coordination meetings related to security. And then as we talk about some of the larger projects, any move management or temporary space requirements that we foresee, Meadows being one of those buildings, we're obviously vetting those issues out ahead of time. By the way of an update on this year's projects, what we're looking at right here is the Deerfield Elementary secured entry. And again, I want to give kudos to McCarthy and Smith and their team. They were able to work through the COVID this past summer and develop the projects on time and under budget. So not a lot to talk through in these photos, but they are nice completion photos. We're looking at the main entries here in the vestibule, new secured entry doors going to the offices, renovated interior spaces. You can see new cabinetry, new flooring, and in a lot of cases, new layouts to the spaces as well. So just some completion photos there. Same thing with Novi Woods. Again, the main entries there, the vestibules. The bottom left-hand photo there shows the new doorway, secured doorway off the vestibule going into the new renovated spaces. And some pictures of the interior renovated spaces. I think these spaces turned out great, and I can say that the staff we've talked to that are occupying them are really excited about their new areas. Parkview Elementary, again, photos of the main entries and new office doors going into the spaces. And finished, renovated, completed photos here as well. Spaces turned out real great. In this particular building, we were able to expand the office by demoing an existing office that wasn't being utilized. You can see in the top left-hand corner, it really opened up that that admin environment. So that'll conclude just an overall update on the bond and in this summer's updates with the projects that we recently completed. I'd like to give a quick update on the budget and schedule. What we're looking at here is kind of an overall high-level budget summary of the project and where we stand to date. Obviously, considering that we didn't do a lot of work this past summer, dollar-wise, not a lot to update on the overall budget. I can say that the project is currently on budget, if a little bit under budget, which is good. I would like to highlight this past year's summary. As I mentioned earlier, between the savings at the secured entryways and some potential savings on the design prime work, we feel that we have a savings of about $125,000 to $160,000 this past summer, which is great. Again, kudos to the team. Some of the savings that we realized were unused contingency, which again is a testament to our quality of design that we had in the management of the project. We didn't need to use contingency dollars. Some general condition savings, various allowances were also part of the savings results. As far as schedule, you've heard me obviously through this presentation talk a lot about these key projects that are coming up, but I figure I'd just recap them in kind of a scope document. But the projects that we have planned for this upcoming summer, which are all part of Series 1 projects, is the Meadows 5th and 6th grade addition and renovations, which we'll talk about here a little bit further, but we're looking to issue that first quarter of 2021. Orchard Hills and Village Oaks secured entryways are out for bid right now, and we're expecting to take bids here shortly, and we'll be coming to the board towards actually at the next meeting for the first reading on those projects. Middle school secured entryway music addition is another project that's coming out. High school secured entry, and then as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be taking on a few design prime projects this next summer as well, whether it be roofing, athletics, or playgrounds. Talking about schedule and when we're going to be coming in front of the board here for approvals. The four columns here, the two obviously are design and construction timelines for each of these projects listed here. And the right column are the board approval schedule for which we're going to be coming forward. And as you can see, as far as sequencing, and as I had mentioned, Orchard Hills and Village Oaks are out on the streets right now for bid, and we'll be coming to the board here the next meeting on the 19th for first reading, with formal approval hopefully on the 3rd. The next project that's going to be coming out thereafter as far as being in order, I'll jump down to the middle school, will be the next project. We'll be in front of the board December 3rd and the 17th for approval. That's the next project that's out for bid, followed by the high school. And that's also going to be coming forward yet this year for approval as well, leading into the first meeting of next year. So we're going to have a very active summer with bidding, or a fall with bidding and planning. And I can say, fortunately, we're hitting the early bid season, which is great. It's always good for schoolwork. And we're going to be one of the first projects out of the gate. And then below is some design prime work that I had mentioned earlier. That's going to be sprinkled in this next year, but some of the approval timelines and schedule timelines for those projects as well. So that wraps up our overall bond budget and schedule update. I want to present, I think the board has already seen, I know they have, a lot of these presentation packs related to the high school, middle school, Village Oaks, Orchard Hills. But we have some nice renderings that I think are very useful as far as visualizing the spaces, but I want to start to go through them if I could. Starting with the high school. Some renderings of the new East Plaza and addition. East entrance. Canopy leading to the new entry, which is pretty impressive. Aerial of that area, along with the bus drop-off area in front of the addition. Just another nice rendering. look straight at the building. Floor plans, I'm not going to go through these in great detail. I know the committee and the board has seen these. We obviously have the team here to answer any questions afterwards, but these are the floor plans for the new 2 secured entryways over at the high school, laid out quite nicely. Middle school. What we can see in this photo is the new secured entry where we have some patrons congregated out front there, and to the right is the new music room addition. More renderings looking more straight on it. Great renderings. Better look at the music addition as it relates to the wetlands and the surrounding areas. And then floor plans for the middle school as well, which shows the addition layout for the new secured entry as well as the music addition. Same thing for Village Oaks. Some nice renderings to visualize. The entry for the new admin. Classroom addition. And then part of this project too, by the way of addition, we're going to be adding a resource room as well. And this is a rendering of that space. Floor plans, the top right-hand corner are the new classroom, or the new classroom addition. Orchard Hills Elementary. Renderings of the new secured admin entry there. And floor plans. So that's a quick overview of Orchard Hills, Village Oaks, the middle school and high school. I'd like to do the same for Meadows, 5th grade and 6th grade addition and remodeling. So I think many of the board members and CPC members have seen this initial rendering. This is actually the 3rd option that we've settled on for Meadows that the team is currently moving forward with, and we'll talk a little bit further about it as we maybe get to the site plan. But this is one of the first sketches that was done developing this concept. I think everyone's seen this. This is a useful sketch that John had done, and it shows the overlay of the new versus old, what's currently there, and what we're going to be renovating, what's going to be demolished, and where the addition lies. So this drawing here, I think, speaks 1,000 words. And if we recall, when we were talking about this 3rd option,
Need to get to the mic.
some of the challenges that some of the feedback that we had heard from the community was related to the green space adjacent to the neighborhoods. If we recall, the version number 2 of the addition was a long addition that was going more east-west and towards the back of the property. Not only did that present budgeting challenges, which we were able to flush out, but it had some logistical challenge and some community concern as well. Pushing the new addition to the front of the building alleviates a lot of those challenges that we had identified. In particular, it frees up a lot of the green space in the back. It creates more opportunity for open play area for both the middle school students and Parkview Elementary, and it preserves that space for future as well. And by pushing the addition to the front, we were able to minimize a lot of the cost overruns that we were concerned about, minimize the site work quite a bit, and obviously the building footprint reduced substantially as well, which was able to bring the project within budget. A lot of other key points to some of the positive aspects of moving the building up front is just sheer presence. I mean, your campus here now at Meadows is going to be a focal point, and it's going to be right off Taft Road. The presence is going to be there, the branding is going to be there, and I think everyone felt it was the right solution in where we arrived. You'll notice a little purple dot towards call it the north side of the soccer field there. One of the challenges that were also identified is we're going to be displacing the locker rooms or the shelter spaces for the soccer team and adult transition. So one of the early projects that we're going to talk about here in a moment is actually rebuilding that space, which I'll actually jump to right now. So where that little purple dot was, we are going to construct over the summer here, because we need to demolish the existing right out of the get-go, the existing portables. We're going to build a new soccer, call it pavilion, which is basically team rooms, very basic team rooms with bathrooms. There's going to be a training office, officials office, and then some storage off the back as well. And we've reviewed this plan with the Capital Projects Group, with Brian Gordon, and everyone seems to be real pleased with this solution. Just some of the interior kind of layouts of the spaces and how things are being programmed currently. Elevation of the proposed building off of Taft Road. This is a much better picture of that. Great rendering, but that's the main entry as you pull up. Call that a view from Taft. That's how you're going to see the building as you pull up as well. Another great rendering. And that concludes our design update on Meadows, and actually concludes our presentation. But as I had mentioned, we have our teams here, and we appreciate the opportunity to not only give an update to present, but we have our teams here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
So this presentation will be put on the website for the community to see as well. And we thought it was important to bring it to the board tonight to kind of give you an update of things that happened this summer, but also looking forward to things that will happen next summer, but also in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. I appreciate you. Does anybody from the board have any questions for Mr. Donnelly or the team specific to the presentation?
Can I
No.
make a comment? It's not a question.
That would be great. Thank
No,
you.
just in terms of, the Meadows, I know that there was just a lot of dialogue around that, so was really happy when I saw the planning of it. It looks like it's just going to be solve all the issues, and then obviously the need at the soccer field to have that be out in that direction, I think is going to be fantastic. It's going to be great for our students, and yeah, excited about it. So, can't happen soon enough. Anyways,
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for the update.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, next up for reports to the board, we have our financial audit. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Annually, school districts are required to have a financial audit completed. On October 19th, 2020, the Finance Committee of the Board of Education met with the auditing firm of Plant Moran and reviewed the results of the audit for the year ended June 30, 2020. They explained the audit process and reviewed the audit documents. Attached to this report are the draft documents that were reviewed with the Finance Committee. There's the financial report letter, Federal Award Single Audit Report, presentation to the Board of Education. Tonight, Plant Moran will present the results of the audit of the 2019-2020 financial statements to the Board of Education, and then this would come back to the board for approval at our November 19th meeting. Tonight, we have Chris Geck from Plant Moran, and he will lead us through the presentation. Mr. Geck?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay here?
Yep.
All right. So, as Dr. Matthews mentioned, we recently completed the audit of the district's financial statements and federal programs for the year ended June 30th of 2020. Before we begin, we'd like to express appreciation to the business office, the entire finance team, the district's books and records were in great shape this year, and that's on top of the fact that we had the pandemic going on, which created a lot of additional work for business offices in school districts. So the fact that things were in great shape, all the records were prepared timely, I think speaks volumes to the quality team that you have here at the district. So thanks to everyone in the finance department for all their assistance. For this year's audit, we were able to issue an unmodified opinion, which is the highest form of assurance that an auditor can issue on a set of financial statements. We had no material weaknesses in internal controls, and no material noncompliance was identified during our procedures. On the federal programs, the district is in compliance with federal guidelines. We tested this year the Child Nutrition Cluster. That was a program we tested this year. We haven't tested that one in the past several years, and that was due to a change with how the food service programs were being run this year during the pandemic. The district is considered a low-risk auditee, and that's based on the past successful audits that we have had with no compliance issues identified. So that is a positive thing of note there. And we did not have any federal audit findings identified during our testing. On the next slide here, you'll see a comparison for the general fund for fiscal 20 of the final budget numbers compared to actual. Total revenue was just over $78.8 million for the final budget that was adopted in June of 2020, and that was compared to the actual revenue that came in at just over $78.7 million. So variance under compared to budget of just approximately $180,000. On the expenditure side, final budgeted expenditures of just over $81.5 million. Actual expenditures came in a bit lower than final budget, just over $80 million. So expenditures were under budget, approximately $1.45 million. So you can see here the change in fund balance was budgeted to be a decrease of just over $2.6 million. And the total actual change in fund balance was a decrease of just about $1.3 million. On this next slide, we're looking at total general fund revenue, again for fiscal 20, just over $78.7 million. This is breaking out revenue by the source of revenue into the general fund. Total revenue from state sources was just over 60.1%. That's mainly going to be the foundation allowance that the district gets on a per pupil basis. The next most significant source would be from local and other financing sources, and that would come in at just about 38.2%. Primarily there in the local sources, you're going to have your local property tax collections. Again, that goes towards the equation in terms of the foundation allowance that the district gets per pupil. Total expenditures in the general fund this year, again, just over $80 million. This view in this slide is the function code level or department. So if you look, the two primary function code areas where expenditures are in the general fund would be in the area of instruction and instructional support. So if you look at those two combined, the blue and red piece of the pie, that would be about 78.6% of total general fund expenditures spent in the area of instruction and instructional support. On this next slide, we have a comparison, and these are looking at prior year numbers, 2018/19. And this is really because the financial results for all districts are not yet submitted as it relates to fiscal 2020 results. But this is a comparison of, in the general fund, where Novi spends dollars based on the functional level compared to other districts in Oakland County, compared to the averages. And so if you look at instructional and instructional support, actual last year being 65.2% and 13.1% respectively, Novi would be on the higher end compared to other districts in Oakland County, with the highest being 68.32% for instruction and 14.43% for instructional support. So definitely on the higher end of the spectrum there. In terms of the other function codes within the general fund, school administration, operations and maintenance, and non-instructional support, Novi would be on the lower end compared to other districts in Oakland County in terms of resources spent in the general fund in those areas. So just a little bit of comparison for where Novi would stand compared to other districts in Oakland County. On this next slide, looking at, again, general fund expenditures, but this time broken out by object code. And so this is how are we spending the dollars within the different function codes that we just described. So you can see on this slide that the vast majority, 86.3%, is spent in the area of salaries and benefits. And so that's going to include employees that are salaried employees, hourly employees. It's going to include fringe benefits such as healthcare benefits, the contributions to the state-run retirement program, MIPSers. All of those benefits are going to be included in that piece of the pie as well. So a very significant portion of the total resources spent on people, but that would be expected in a district of any size across the state of Michigan. On this next slide, we're looking at the change in the fund balance in the general fund for years 2012 through 2020, with a projection as well for 2021. Again, for this year, the decrease in fund balance was approximately $1.38 million. And the projected decrease to fund balance, and this is just based on the original budget that was adopted in June of 2020 for fiscal 21, is a use of fund balance of approximately $2 million. One thing to keep in mind for the budget for fiscal 21, this year was a bit of a unique year on many aspects, obviously, but especially from a budgeting standpoint. At June 30, all districts are required to have a budget in place for their next fiscal year, but the state's budget was not yet adopted, as the state's fiscal year end is a 9/30 year end. So because of that, districts did not know what the foundation allowance was going to be yet for fiscal 21. On top of that, the state was telling districts that proration could occur impacting fiscal 20 as well as 21 to the tune of about $650 to $750 per student. So that really put districts in a tight spot in terms of making their best estimate as where potential proration could occur and how much, and would that carry into fiscal year 21 as well. And so, again, that $2 million, just keep in mind, that's based on that original budget, just based on estimates in June of 2020. Things have obviously changed. We have a state budget in place now. The proration ended up only being $175 per student, but still a proration, and that proration is not continuing into fiscal 21. So a little bit of a different twist to information that we know now compared to what was in place and what we were knowing in June when we were adopting budgets for districts across the state. This next slide is looking at the total fund balance. So the last slide was the change in fund balance for each year. This is the total fund balance at the end of each fiscal year from 2012 to 2020, as well as a projection at 2021. So the total ending fund balance was just over $11 million at the end of fiscal 20. The board goal is to maintain a fund balance threshold equal to 10% compared to total operating expenditures in the general fund. So if we look at this year's results as a comparison to the goal, total fund balance would be approximately 13.86% compared to operating expenditures in the general fund, so a little bit above that 10% goal threshold. If you look at just the unassigned portion of fund balance, threshold would dip down a little bit, and that would be 9.79% if you look at just the unassigned portion of fund balance. The projection for fiscal 2021, that'd be based on your ending fund balance at the end of June 30 of 2020, in addition to subtracting off the $2 million from the projected use of fund balance from the original budget in fiscal 21. That would take you to a projected fund balance at the end of the current fiscal year of approximately $9 million, or 11.78%. A couple other items of note for fiscal 20. I know we just heard the presentation, obviously, on the update to the bond projects. This year, there was approximately $4.1 million spent in capital outlay expenditures across all funds. $3.8 million of that was spent within the sinking fund, the 2017 and 2020 capital projects funds. So without those resources and support of the community and those funds, just keep in mind that the general fund would be the one that would have to bear the responsibility of those capital improvements. Another highlight, there was a new accounting standard, GASB 84, that was adopted by the district this year. This is a new national GASB accounting standard that districts either had to adopt this year or next year. There was an extension granted due to the pandemic, but the district had everything in shape and was ready to adopt, and so that did occur in your financial statements this year. And what happened was the activities that used to be reported as fiduciary, those are now within a new special revenue fund, as is the occurrence for most all fiduciary activities now in the state of Michigan. Those are primarily made up of student activity accounts, and because of the nature of those and how they're set up, those are required now to be reported as part of the governmental activities. A few highlights related to the pandemic from a financial standpoint. The district originally was set to receive and did receive throughout the year of fiscal '20, a $120 increase per pupil on the foundation allowance that it receives per student. This would have been the first year since 2012, when all districts received a $470 cut per student, that the district would have been back to 2011 funding levels. But then what happened was, with the budget impacts of the pandemic, in August, which is your final state aid payment for fiscal '20, there was a $175 proration per student. So on a net basis, there was a reduction of $55 per student received in state funding this year for the district. And so that ended up not resulting in having funding that took us back to 2011 levels. So we're still back to what the levels were, and not yet back to that 2011 funding level. As I mentioned, that proration of $175 per student, that is not going to recur for fiscal '21, and the district's going to receive a one-time $65 increase per student in fiscal '21. Aside from some changes to the food service program throughout fiscal 2020, there was no other changes to federal programs. However, for fiscal '21, there's going to be some significant impacts in terms of some different grants that are related to the CARES Act. The Corona Relief Fund provided the district with approximately $2.4 million from the state for fiscal '21, and that's going to be reported on the district's CFA for the 2021 audit. Those are the prepared slides, but if there's any other questions or comments, be happy to take those.
Mr. Cook?
Hi, Chris. In the last couple of years during the audit, you recommended for security eliminating some of the super users.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that in this report this year. Did that get resolved, and did you check it out?
Yeah, there's some comments in the separate report to the Board of Education. So, yeah, there'd be some similar comments there if you look at that report.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I do appreciate the budget, or the business office, Mr. McIntyre, Deanna Wheeler especially, helping out with the audit, and appreciate Plant Moran conducting the audit. Much of it was done virtually, and it seemed to go well. And so I attribute that to Deanna Wheeler and Mr. McIntyre's efforts to make sure that we cooperated with Plant Moran and were able to have a successful audit.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and we appreciate all the work you're doing to help our district.
Thank you.
Next up, we have comments from the audience related to agenda items. This is an opportunity for comments from the audience specific to anything on our agenda. This will be the first opportunity for comments, and there will be a secondary opportunity later in the agenda. Seeing no one coming up to the microphone, we will move on to the consent agenda.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, I was just trying to find it, because this paper is a little bit different than this, so I was trying to make sure, but yes.
Okay. Well,
There's
I
a
will-
couple things in addition to what's listed on the paper, so. Would you like to make a motion?
Okay, so yeah, I'll make a motion that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve consent items A and B as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mr. Cook. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we'll move on to our action items. Our first action item is the personnel report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Tonight's personnel report, we have Sandy Brazel will, with your approval, move from the high school to the business office as the executive assistant to Mr. McIntyre. A similar is retirement and resignation. Christine Diataker, who had served in that function, is resigning from the district. She has taken a position with Oakland Schools. And then Don Gleasing, who works in maintenance, is retiring as well. And that's the personnel report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. If I can get a motion, Mrs. Hood?
I move that the Novi excuse me, I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Hood, supported by Mr. Mena. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, you guys like to steal each other's secretaries. Yeah, everybody-
Well, this is a good opportunity for Ms. Brazel. And so we like to look at our own staff for filling those positions. She went through a rigorous process. We had 3 candidates that had gotten to final interview process, and Ms. Brazel came out ahead. And I think Mr. McIntyre is pleased with that.
Right?
Yes, we
Wonderful.
like Mrs. Brazel. She will definitely lighten up the ESD, that's for
Yes,
sure.
she will.
Really got a great personality. Yeah. Excellent.
Great. No other comments? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. Her institutional knowledge of this district is going to be great for Greg. I mean, she's been in this district forever. Her kids both went to school through here, so that alone will be a great addition to, yeah, she's a great gal. And she's got a lot of energy, which she's going to need in the business office, right?
That's great. Okay, next, our second action item is the Middle Cities Resolution. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. The Novi Community School District has been a member of the Middle Cities Risk Management Trust since 1993. This trust provides property, general liability, auto liability, and errors and omissions insurance for the district. There are 32 member school districts and other entities in this trust, and each member has a designated trustee, alternate trustee, and risk management coordinator. With the departure of Joe Minnick, who was Novi's designated trustee, the district is required to appoint new individuals to fill these roles. The proposed resolution was submitted to the Board of Education on October 15th for information and discussion. It comes back tonight for board approval. What the resolution does is it appoints Mr. McIntyre and Deanna Wheeler as trustee and alternate trustee to Middle Cities Risk Management Trust.
If I can get a recommendation?
I'll move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the appointment of Gregory McIntyre and Deanna Wheeler as trustee and alternate trustee to the Middle Cities Resolution Management Trust.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mr. Cook. We'll open it up for discussion. I just have a quick question. With us just approving the personnel report and Mrs. Wheeler resigning.
Oh,
did
no.
that need-
That was Ms. Diak who resigned.
Oh, excellent. Should pay a little closer attention. Greg's like, what? What's happening? Who's leaving?
Am I losing another
I'm sure that was news to Ms. Wheeler,
Right,
too.
right. Sorry, Ms. Wheeler, we're so happy you're not going anywhere. Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have our third action item. We have our bargaining unit contracts. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. A tentative agreement has been reached with the Novi Education Association, the NEA, the Novi Transportation Association, NTA, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, the IUOE. The administration recommends that contract agreements be approved. And once you have a motion or recommendation, I can summarize that for the board.
Okay. We can get a motion? Mrs. Hood?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the tentative agreements reached with the Novi Education Association, NEA, Novi Transportation Association, NTA, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE.
Thank you. Can I get a support? Recommended by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Roney. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you. The agreement with the Novi Education Association is a 3-year agreement for 2020-21, 21-22, and 22-23. In the first year, there will be a full step progression for those progressing on steps and a $500 off-schedule bonus for those members at the top of the salary scale. There is a wage reopener in 21-22. Those at the top of the salary schedule would maintain their $500 off schedule in event there is a wage freeze, so they would not go backwards next year. And then in 22-23, there is a wage reopener. There was some contract language that was approved as well, and we feel that the negotiations with the teacher group went well, and both sides gave a little on certain issues, and certainly we appreciate their willingness to work with us in a collaborative manner. The Novi Transportation Association is also a 3-year agreement. 2021, there's full step progression and a 3% increase for those employees at 6, 10, 15, and 20. Those are longevity steps for bus drivers and mechanics. 21-22, there will be a wage reopener if it's mutually agreed on by both parties no later than June 12th of 2021. Otherwise, there will be a rest in the salary progression for the 21-22 school year. And in 22-23, there will be a wage reopener. And again, there were some minor language changes in the evaluation, and we feel that we had a successful bargaining session with the Novi Transportation Association. And then the International Union of Operating Engineers was just a wage reopener, and there's a full step progression and 3% increase for those employees at the top of the scale. And that's kind of a summary of those agreements that we reached. Mr. McIntyre, Dr. Kinzer were our representatives. Dr. Weber and I joined in when there were questions or they needed some final guidance from the superintendent's office. But I appreciate the effort that Mr. McIntyre and Dr. Kinzer gave to this process.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Okay. Are we ready for a vote? So I don't know if we're allowed to ask questions because we,
Nope, you can ask questions.
yeah, okay, go ahead.
Actually,
Mrs. Hood?
I didn't really have a question, I just had a comment, and it was an observation that when Mr. Geck was reviewing our audit, that expenses page, that always catches my eye, and the grid that compares Novi schools to other districts within Oakland County. And we are always, we're either the higher end or the lower end, depending on whichever is the better, I guess depending on most people's judgment, whichever is the better end of the spectrum, whether we put more money into instruction and instruction-related activities and less money into administration and things like that. And when we were talking this summer, and most schools were expecting a budget cut because of the COVID lack of revenue, and that didn't come to pass, which was good. But I think it's useful to just reset our perspective on things like this, that most of our expenses are on people. And when we have to cut people or pay. And I have to say that our unions have been very supportive and collaborative with us, and I appreciate it as the chairman of the finance committee, even though I just kind of look at numbers, I don't really do anything. But anyway, I think it's useful to keep in mind that most of our expenses go to the people who spend their time with our kids. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Hood's comments. The thing that I'd kind of like to see come out of this, I know we're dipping into our fund balance because we're a little bit high this year and we're dipping into it for this. But in the years to come, typically when we have to do that, then 2-3 years down the road, we end up going negative under our 10%. So my only concern is, did we dip in too far? And, I support it. I agree your teachers, especially this year, deserve it. And so do our transportation and our maintenance guys. So, but that is my big concern when we do this, because who knows what's next year brings.
And we're very sensitive to that, and we keep that in mind as we negotiate these contracts to ensure that we'll maintain the fiscal stability for the board and continue to maintain at least a 10% fund balance so we don't have to borrow money over the summer to pay our expenses. Because as all of you know, our last state aid payment comes in August for the previous year, and our first state aid payment for the current year doesn't come till October. So we have to have some money to tide us over in those months. And so we are very aware of that, and I appreciate Mr. Cook kind of pointing that out and reminding us that the board's expectation is that we'll continue to be fiscally responsible for our community.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, and thank you, Mr. Cook, for your comment. Mrs. Roney, did you have something or no? Okay. All righty. Hearing no other comments or questions, I think we'll be ready for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Dr. Ruskin, if I could read one thing.
Yes,
Dr.
please.
Kinzer wanted me to make sure that we extend the gratitude to our bargaining groups for their service to our students and for their collaborative and respectful approach to the bargaining process. It's a testament to their commitment to the district that we are able to efficiently arrive at agreements that are in the mutual best interest of the district and employees, and ultimately the students of the Novi Community School District. Dr. Kinzer states that he's confident that our work together this fall has already contributed to an even healthier district culture.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that on his behalf. All righty. Next, we have 2 committee reports. We will first begin with our Finance Committee. Mrs. Hood?
Yes, well, there's not much more. Let's see. The Finance Committee met on October 19th to review the report that we were presented this evening by Plant Moran. Mrs. Roney, Mrs. Murphy, Mr. McIntyre, Mrs. Wheeler, and Dr. Matthews. I was there from the district, and then Chris Geck and Jeff Higgins from Plant Moran. We reviewed these documents. We discussed their opinion, obviously, clean audit, and I will thank again Deanna Wheeler and Mr. McIntyre in our finance team. And let's see. That was it from our, we discussed, GASB 84 and its impacts on the district, but I won't go into that. And that was it.
Thank you, Mrs. Hood, for that report. Next, we have a second report from committees, and that is the Capital Projects Committee. Mr. Mennel.
Yeah, in a like manner, we had a meeting on October 28th. I am on, right? There we go. Okay. We did have a meeting on October 28th, and we did discuss, actually reviewed the minutes from the previous meeting, but also a lot of the conversation was surrounding much of what was presented today. We did go over the presentation, made some adjustments, and really just prepped it so that we can present it to the full board today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mennel. And thank you both for your time in leading those committees, and we appreciate it. Next, we have our second opportunity, which for comments from the audience. These comments can be related to anything that is in the Board of Education's purview. If I may, for Mrs. Holly's records, if you fill out a green card, if you haven't done it, you can certainly do it before you leave, just with your name and in case anybody from the administration would need to contact you after for further questions or clarification. So I don't see a ton of people in the audience, so we'll have a 5-minute opportunity today. And whoever would like to go first, if you can just kind of take turns to be respectful of COVID. And Mr. Mennel will be our timekeeper. If you just want to go up to the mic, that would be great.
All right, I don't think I'll take the whole 5 minutes, and I think that this board meeting's moving along quickly, so I'm sure everyone's happy about that. I know I'm Chris Holman, I've expressed some concerns to you. I mean, first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Matthews. I think the tutoring that you've offered is certainly going to be a help to some members in the district and kids that do need that help. a lot of kids need that. I think it's also a little bit of a testament to the fact that, you know, maybe the hybrid model isn't quite working out for some of those kids. So, I mean, really my focus is how do we get these kids 5 days of instruction? I mean, I know myself and some parents have pushed for, you know, 4 or 5 days full-time instruction. I don't think the board or the administration would go for that in light of kind of the COVID case reports that are going on in some schools that have been shut down temporarily. So I think that, you know, I'm really asking the board to ask the administration for, you know, what is the plan? I think that we've asked for the possibility of synchronous learning for the hybrid kids, where on their at-home days, they can Zoom in. I know that some in the administration are very opposed to that. I think as parents, we'd like to understand a little bit more why that wouldn't work for Novi kids when it does work for schools in other districts. I know that there's been some hypotheticals thrown out there as far as, you know, no one wants to see a kid have a bad day in class. I certainly understand that, but, you know, I mean, it is working in other places. I have friends in South Lyon that are doing that, and their kids are happy. I know Catholic Central works that way. I think just a better understanding of why it wouldn't work here outside of, you know, just a hypothetical situation that might come up would be helpful. The other is, I mean, I think we're all kind of in the mindset that we're probably going to keep with the current plan through January 22nd. I think we'd like to ask for a little more clarity on what the plan is after that. I think even looking at next school year, I mean, maybe COVID doesn't go away. You know, as a school district, we probably need a plan for that. So we really have about, what, 10 or 11 weeks until the next semester starts. So I think it would be helpful to start putting that plan together and presenting it to the board. You know, if we're in a situation where this doesn't go away, I don't think anybody wants to keep the current models that we're doing full-time. So, you know, how do we do that? I know Dr. Matthews, you know, we're doing a lot of things with, I think everyone's pretty happy with the protocols that are in place. You know, the masks, the hand washing, the sanitizing. I think there's, you know, some opportunity there, you know, maybe a little give and take as far as, you know, if we have 4.5 of those protocols in place versus all 5, is that good enough? But that's really all I have. I think just some urgency from the board to kind of fulfill your duties as elected officials to really represent, as it's stated, you know, in your policies, represent the entire school community. I think you do have the right and the obligation to ask of the administration those sorts of things and not just kind of rely on their professionalism, which, you know, obviously they're perfectly qualified, but I think that there can be some opportunity to push back. Don't be afraid to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Do we have any other public comment? Anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. Seeing no one else come up to the microphone, I think we'll move on to our next opportunity for a report from Dr. Matthews, Superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Tonight, we have a closed session to discuss possible purchase or lease of a property, which is allowed by the Open Meetings Act, and so my comments will be brief this evening. Today is November 5th. This is the 9th week of school. When we started school on September 8th, we were unsure what the year would bring us. I was confident that our staff, teachers, administrators, bus drivers, food service workers, secretaries, tech staff, care and child care staff would find ways to connect with our students and continue providing a high-quality educational experience for our students. And I have not been disappointed. There have been missteps and mistakes along the way, and there have been struggles, certainly, but our staff has been wonderful. They have been tested, but they have found ways to make a difference and make connections with our students. They have learned new skills. They have tried out new experiences for both themselves and their students, and I believe that we are continuing to make progress on providing that high-quality experience. Can we continue to get better? Certainly we can, but I am very proud of our staff so far. I have seen them teach. I have heard their stories. This unpredictable and unusual year is continuing, but we are continuing to teach students, and students are continuing to learn. We will once again discuss our return to school planning on November 19th, as we are required to by law. And so we will continue to bring the board information and recommendations on November 19th, and ask the board to once again help us think through and think about where we should head. And that's my report for this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matthews. Next, we have our administrative reports. We will start with Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you and good evening. The business office is working on revising the 2021 budget, and we'll be presenting that at a December board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kinzer has given his report earlier through Dr. Matthews, and we will move on to Dr. Weber.
Hey, thank you, President Ruskin. I think one of my favorite quotes really is, "You don't have to be sick to get better." And after the last board meeting that we had, the impression from many of our teachers, frankly, and administrators is the fact that that what they were doing was failing in the hybrid model. And I would contend, having the pleasure of being in their classrooms and seeing them and being in 6 buildings today, that that's quite far from the truth. So with that said, I'd like to compliment and thank the Novi Community Coalition, who provided 650 copies of The Deepest Well, which we read in our Novi Mental Health Alliance, which is firing back up on Monday. We had a nice 24-month run, consecutive run on that, so there'll be information forthcoming, a Zoom link for that, as well as an in-person option at the high school. But we did a 3-part book study on The Deepest Well, and this is childhood trauma, how do we attend to it? And really, in light of what's going on in the pandemic, I think that's critically important. And then I decided a little show and tell tonight, because why not, right? A little levity? Let's do this. So every single, I'm going to go to the podium here. Don't worry, it's not going to take long. It's not a magic trick or anything like that. Just gives an idea for those parents who are hybrid parents, what they might not see, what the virtual kids are also getting, and also should help our virtual parents feel pretty darn good. So this right here is a syringe of all things, right? A syringe. Let me get this out, if I can get it out. And this is actually part of our 5th grade science unit right now. But every single student who is a fully virtual student is able to pick up, and their parents do pick up a science kit bag. Nothing is returned on this. So we keep that from a safety standpoint. This particular one is about the Earth, and comes with a flashlight and takes the kids through what it's like to be winter and summer and so on. Really helping our students to better understand science and hands-on, because science is kind of important, right? Especially in light of the pandemic and in light of global warming, climate change, making sure that from a K-12 educational standpoint, our students have that opportunity. So today, I had the pleasure, if you check out my Twitter handle, on going into a 5th grade classroom, and the students were doing, they have to take like this syringe, and this is about air, you can hear that, and make predictions on what's going to happen with it. And there's a video on there where the students are making these predictions and using them, and seeing the joy and hearing the joy on hands-on opportunities for science is something that I would simply like to thank the Board of Education for the commitment 6 years ago that you all made to funding our science efforts. From a K-12 standpoint, our science program is, and this is not hyperbole, one of the very best in the state. I was interviewed by the University of Michigan about 3 weeks ago, and they said they had struggled to find anybody in the state to interview, even to talk to about how they built a K-12 science program like the one that we have. That is not possible without a Board of Education or a community who's willing to support this type of work. So I just want to thank you for that little preview. Then on the 19th, we'll have a presentation on everything we have been doing to support this. I think there is I think folks, if they don't see it explicitly, some people may assume that it's not going on or not happening. And I'm happy to attend to, having been an administrator in South Lyon for 10 years, I'm also happy to attend to what is indeed occurring instructionally in places that I've served, with the feedback from the people that I've served aside. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who participated in the Deepest Well book study. That was fantastic. And thank you to the board for, and I want to compliment you again, because looking around our county and seeing schools go out one after the other, when I saw kids getting off the buses at Orchard Hills, and I saw kids getting off the buses at VO, I think that's truly a testament to the decision that you all made on August 6th in the work of our teachers and our administrators to have 2 modalities launched. Social distancing, Steve, you know, you've become a data hound on the COVID tracking and everything, and I think that played hugely into what we're doing, so thank you as well, Dr. Matthews, for that. Thank you, President Ruskin.
Thank you, Dr. Weber, for your report. Next, we have an opportunity for board communication. Mrs. Murphy?
I'm going to piggyback off of RJ. So the Deepest Well book discussion, while I didn't get to join last night's discussion, I did get to take part in the previous 2, and I just want to say just a huge testament to the diversity of staff that were interested. We had a bus driver who participated in it, who wanted to understand better how to help the students, because she helps some of the special needs kids too. And she gets up at 5 in the morning and she's participating in or 4 in the morning, and she's participating in a book discussion to get better, so on her own time. So really had a fantastic group of people that participated in that. So I just want to say thank you to Community Coalition for the books. I know I have mine. Is this mine? Did I bring mine? Oh, no, that's yours.
I just put it there.
Oh, I had mine in my bag earlier. Anyways, it is a fantastic book. It's actually a really good read, too. I mean, she's a great writer. She uses sports analogies to describe medical terminology and makes you understand it. And so it's really very, very well written. So I would highly recommend it. Even, I mean, personal use or whatever, it's a fantastic read. So just can't say enough, though, about the people that participated and their desire to really understand better the whys so that they can ask better questions of the kids, so that they can help kids get through it and serve as what they call a buffer, which is what a lot of kids need in order to be successful that have experienced some of that stuff. So anyways, thanks, RJ, for your drive on that. It's been a really good, encouraging thing during COVID to just see people coming together to really figure out how to better help our students. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, thank you. I attended the Oakland Schools Government Relations Committee meeting. I am our liaison to that committee. We met last night, and there were a couple things on the agenda. One was election results. What has been finalized was Ellen Lipton is a new member of the State Board of Education. She is a former House member from Huntington Woods, and she is a public education ally and advocate, which is, I think, good for all kids in Michigan. Novi has a new Michigan House representative. Kathy Crawford was term limited, and so that seat was empty. And Kelly Breen won it Tuesday night. You'll know her name. She's been on the Novi City Council for a few years. Anyway, so that is new for us. There was a lot of turnover in some districts for board members. One of the districts had 4 brand new people come in. And I would like to congratulate the 3 of,
Not me, the 3 of you.
the 3 of Mr. Cook, Dr. Ruskin, and Mr. Mena, who were reelected, even though I didn't look at the results. I assume it happened. I'll let you tell us.
It happened.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And we also had quite a long discussion about COVID and schools that decided to come back fuller time than they are, whether they've been all virtual and they're coming back hybrid, or they've been hybrid and they're expanding. So there are several districts based on the newest cases. Michigan's cases are up 48% when you look at the rolling weekly averages, I think. Today we had almost 6,000 new cases. So Berkeley was scheduled to go back, bring their K-6 back full-time, and they have delayed that. They put a pause on that at their Monday meeting. Walled Lake did the same thing because they are getting a lot of, just like we have, we're getting more comments now from parents who are very concerned about their kids being in any school. So it is, the conversation that we have been having is happening all over I can tell you it's happening all over Oakland County. I assume it's happening all over the state. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hood. I actually popped into that meeting because I thought it was a
I know
different
you did.
meeting. I'm not really sure why. I was like invited and took the invite and got on the Zoom, and Kathy was like, "Why are you on the meeting?" I'm like, "Isn't this meeting blah, blah, blah?" And she said, "No." I said, "Okay, I'll see you later." And I left. So we appreciate you representing.
Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Quiet night. Oh, Mr. Mena?
Sure. See, tomorrow morning, actually going to take the day off work tomorrow, and I'm going to head out to MIS to go watch our cross-country runners compete in states. Should be pretty exciting. You know, we're hoping, we've got a pretty good team in Novi, very competitive though here in Oakland County. In fact, the KLAA West is probably the best conference, the best division within a conference in the entire state of Michigan. Very, very competitive division. So it'll be interesting to see how we do tomorrow, but very excited about that. And of course, the big football game tomorrow against Detroit Catholic Central. This will probably be like the fifth or sixth time we've played them ever. We haven't fared well, but hey, you know, our time is coming. So, and then just to piggyback on some of the comments that Dr. Weber mentioned earlier, I just want to make it clear, at least from my perspective, when I talk to folks about the back-to-school plan, the hybrid plan, I've never heard anybody say that teachers are failing. That's never been anything that's anybody's been talking to me about, not any concern that parents have brought up. I think what folks have been very clear to me about is that they're concerned about our implementation of the hybrid model, and they're concerned that it's not really optimal for their students. And I do run into students from time to time. They'll bend my ear, and I'm hearing a lot of similar comments. I know I wasn't here at the last meeting. I apologize for that. My daughter got married, and I know it was a pretty emotional meeting. I did see a lot of the comments. I do know that our administration has promised to work on making some improvements in hybrid. So I'll take some time between now and I think next meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
We've got this on our agenda for next meeting, so I'll probably spend some time talking to some key stakeholders just to kind of get a good feeling for how things are really going.
And those comments
improved.
were from teachers themselves the day after the meeting.
Yeah.
So maybe talking to some teachers would be
I'll do
good,
that,
at least
yeah.
to what they've heard from watching the meeting and what they heard from comments.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they want to talk to me, I'll be happy I can't speak for you guys, but I certainly don't feel that anybody is throwing arrows at our teachers. So, again, I will be speaking to some stakeholders between now and the next meeting, and if I find it worthwhile, I'll share some of my findings and my votes on how I think we should move forward will be based on what I learned. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. We appreciate your comments. Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Cook, you said no the first time, but we're going to go back around.
Sorry about that. I guess I don't really want to use the word jump on, but to follow what Mr. Mena said there about the return to school plan, and we'll be voting on it next week again. I know the tutoring and, some common activities that for the K-6 kids. One of the things that I had asked for was, making sure we're driving those combos classes down to the option 1. I'd like to see how that is going. My company today announced that a partnership with Sylvan Learning Center so that we could get our kids tutored easily. And I'm really curious how the tutoring is going here.
Paul, could you move your mic closer? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay. My company today announced a partnership with Sylvan Learning Centers for us to get our kids tutored. Free drop-in at certain times, or discounts on package deals. And I'm really curious how our tutoring is going that we've started. I think the word needs to get out even more than what it did. It came out briefly, and it really needs to get out. But those are just a couple of things I'm going to be looking at. And, you know, it's not that the teachers aren't trying. It's not that the teachers aren't doing their job. It's the kids need to be engaged when they're at home. And, you know, that falls on us parents, but we also have to have engaging and exciting things for the kids at that time. And I guess those are the areas where I was hoping to see some improvement, you know, when we were looking to improve things. So I didn't know where to put these comments, but this is about the only time I could, so.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. I appreciate you.
I just, and
Pull a little closer, Marianne, just because of the mask, it's hard for us to hear. Sorry.
that's okay. I just have, and Dr. Matthews, you're probably gonna have to help me out on this one. We had a athlete, cross-country runner, Elizabeth,
Babcock.
and she got some recognition this week, from, and
The
this is.
the
where
Heisman
it-
Foundation.
What is it?
The Heisman Foundation.
Heisman, yeah, I knew, yeah, she did her little pose. And then I was like, is she football?
I thought she was football, too.
Confused me a little there, but I'd like to congratulate her. And I'd also like to give a big kudos out to our teachers. I know they're working hard, and I know we're gonna find a solution that makes parents and staff happy. Just give us some time, we're gonna do it. You know, I'm sure there's ways we can, you know, come back. I read this little report here, and it says, you know, school spread is still exceedingly low, even though we're going up. So I'm sure we can do a little something there, maybe to help the parents out. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mrs. Roney. You good over there, Mr. Smith? Okay, no comments today. Yeah, I don't have much tonight. I think I would like to just wish, you know, I know volleyball had district finals tonight.
And they won.
Yay. So they're off to regionals. I know that there's a big football game tomorrow. It was real exciting to have our guys move on from Brighton. So, you know, every day that our kids get to participate in athletics or extracurriculars or even get into the school based on what we see happening throughout the county. And just kind of as things progress and people pulling the plug on these kids, I think I hold my breath every morning, and I'm excited when I see that they can continue to do these things in a safe manner. So good luck to the teams that are still playing, that are in the playoffs and representing Novi, and getting to be with their teammates and doing what they love, because I think that that's, you know, really what it's all about, is to have our kids engaged in some fashion, obviously education being the priority, but just getting out there and having socialization. So again, I think that we are holding steady, and there's always work to be done, as you don't have to be sick to get better. My friend over there, Dr. Weber, has pointed out. So with that, I think that if I can get a motion, we're going to go into closed session, as Dr. Matthews has put in his report. So